So I want to begin our time together this morning by extinguishing a candle for the 50 people who were killed at the Al Noor and Linwood mosques during Friday prayers. As our brothers and sisters in faith, we hold them in our hearts, and I invite you into a moment of silence. Our opening words this morning are the poem Just Now by W.S. Merwin, who also died on Friday at the age of 91. Merwin was a practicing Buddhist as well as a almost lifelong proponent of deep ecology. For the last 40 years, he's lived in Hawaii, restoring a pineapple plantation to its original rainforest state. Just Now is a poem to the unnameable forces that hold us together. Just now. In the morning, as the storm begins to blow away, the clear sky appears for a moment, and it seems to me that there has been something simpler than I could ever believe, simpler than I could have begun to find words for. Not patient, not even waiting, no more hidden than the air itself that became part of me for a while. With every breath, and remained with me unnoticed, something that was here unnamed, unknown in the days and the nights, not separate from them as they come and were gone. It must have been here neither early nor late. Then by what name can I address it now? By holding out my thanks. Please rise in body or spirit. Join us in our opening hymn, number 295, Sing Our Praises for the Journey.
Good morning. My name is Hanna Hart, and I am a member of this congregation. And on behalf of all the members and longtime friends of this congregation, I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you, and especially to any visitors we have this morning. If you're here for the first or second time and you feel comfortable, I'd like to invite you to stand and be recognized and welcomed. We're so glad you're here. Please do stay for coffee and conversation after the service. We'd be happy to meet and greet you and tell you a little more about why we're here and show you around. If you'd like more information from us, you can just fill out, there's yellow cards in the pews. You can fill one of those out and put them in the collection plate, and that will sign you up so you can receive our e-newsletter, or you can get a card at the welcome desk as well. Upcoming events are published in the order of service, so I would encourage you all to take a look at that, especially for our friends sitting up here. We really like to keep the announcements short, and we so appreciate how attentive and delightful they are, so thank you for that. I do want to call out one important announcement, which is that I'm a member of the board of Up on Top, and that is an after-school program for elementary school students from our neighbors in the Tenderloin. And it's a program that was started originally by members of the church, and there are a couple of church members on the board, and we're having a big celebration on April 4th at Salesforce Tower, way up high. And I know I've been eyeing that building because you can see it from absolutely everywhere around the city, and I'm very excited to get to see the interior. The event is very special to all of us in the congregation because we're going to be honoring our loyal friend and local amazing person, Jan Oringer. So, Jan, thank you. Jan was a longtime board member, and you may have also noticed that at a holiday time. I'm sorry about that. We will be honoring Jan at this ceremony, and I think it's great that Salesforce has donated the space to us. We feel very lucky to be able to host the event there, but we also want to honor everyone's views about the company. So those of you who would like to have the opportunity to celebrate Jan, we would invite you to attend. You can find an Eventbrite site to buy tickets on the Up on Top website, and you can see a link also in the newsletter. We'll be having live jazz and hors d'oeuvres and drinks, and also Vern Glenn, who is a local celebrity, will be emceeing, so we're very excited about it, and we hope you can join us. And Lawrence and Kelly, I think you have an announcement you want to make?
Just me this time. Good morning. I first want to extend a big thank you to everybody who helped to make last week's free lunch a sold-out event. We are already halfway there toward our goal of pledges of $625,000, though we have a ways to go towards meeting our other goal of 100% participation. Huge thanks to those who have already pledged, the large majority of whom have increased their pledges from last year. And to those who have not yet pledged, please carve out a few minutes to think about what works for you and to either go online to our very simple site at uusf.org/AOF or picking up a pledge form, which we have everywhere plastered. And we will also be in the hallway during coffee hour, and you can get a pledge then. If it's St. Patrick's Day, and if, like me, you forgot to wear green, make your pledge and you'll get a green I pledged drive and solve that dilemma. Our sailboat ride drawing was won by our faithful usher and greeter, John Maliska. But if you didn't win that, you still have a chance to win Marty Vanderlane's Lake Tahoe cabin for 3 nights if you pledge by March 31st. And so let's keep our momentum going. Oh, Vanessa especially wanted me to say that if anybody had questions or just wanted to talk about their pledge process or the priorities that the church has, to please reach out to her. She's happy to speak with anybody about that. So let's keep our momentum going so we can continue to grow our light, both inside our doors and in the wider community. Thank you. Bye.
Now I ask that you join me in the words of the chalice lighting. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light this symbol of our faith as we gather together. Each Sunday, we take a moment or 3 to greet one another, so please reach out to somebody you don't already know and introduce yourself. There'll be a musical cue when it's time to be seated.
And I want to welcome Radim for being with us this morning. Thank you for being here. So this morning, we're talking about wisdom. And I've been thinking about the story of King Solomon, who is a very important character in the Hebrew Bible. How many have heard of King Solomon? Pretty good. That's good. Well, one of the things King Solomon was known for being a very wise king, is that he wrote a lot of proverbs. Now, proverbs are short sentences that kind of hold a deep truth, something that sort of speaks through time, something that resonates with us, that tells us something that we know inside, but something about that proverb kind of brings it to life and makes us think about it a little more. Maybe makes us wiser in the process. But I'm curious, before we talk specifically about the Proverbs, and this is to the kids, the younger ones specifically. What does wisdom mean? Anybody have any thoughts when you hear the word wisdom? Zach? Wisdom means wise. Well, yeah, exactly. And what does wise mean for you, Zach, when you think about being a wise person? Not a wiseacre, that's a different thing. What does it mean to be wise? Smart, yeah, that's a quality of being wise. What's a couple other words? Anybody can toss them out that they think? Kindness. Being wise is about being kind. Oh. Experienced. Good judgment, yeah. Understanding. There's actually, if you look in the dictionary, there are many words that are attached to the word wisdom. So it means a lot of different things, but that sense of understanding and insight, good judgment, those are three pretty important qualities, ones that we should think about too. So this morning I have a game, actually. It's called, Where's the Wisdom in That? So I've chosen 3 proverbs, and I'm going to read them out loud, and we're going to get into some, not so much biblical criticism per se, but reflection, kind of a, what's the word that I'm looking for? Midrash. You know, we're going to think about it together. And so you all can't hear each other, so I'm going to be a bit of the interpreter. So I'm going to ask for some comments, and I'll pick out a few just to kind of name them into the space. But these proverbs were written thousands of years ago, and yet somehow, well, we're going to find out, they still have meaning for us. We can still look to that and say, there's something about that that speaks to me. And that's kind of the thing I want to hear. Like, what does that say to you? Why might that idea, that proverb matter in my life? So here's the first one. Knowledge is more valuable than gold, said King Solomon. Knowledge is more valuable than gold. What do we think about that? Where's the wisdom? Where's the wisdom in that? I guess you all think gold is more valuable. Ben? Uh-huh.
If you know where to find gold, that's worth all the gold you might possibly find.
Okay, so did everybody get that? Can you say it one more time, Ben, and I'll try and... If you have gold, it is only worth what the gold is worth. If you know how to find gold, it is worth all the gold you might find. Interesting. I'm curious about the knowledge part. Okay, Christine?
I would say that you can always spend all your gold or lose it, but if you have knowledge, you have it forever.
Ah, you could spend all your gold and lose it, but the knowledge would stay with you forever. How does that sound? Yeah? People you got a little consensus on that? Third one, anyone got a third one? You wise people. Lori, I can see out there. Okay, I got some of that. If you teach people how to fish, they'll be able to fish and have food for a lifetime. And then the last part was... And gold will only last a certain amount of time. It just doesn't kind of stay with you. Where if you have the skill, the wisdom to know how to fish, that's a skill that can last a lifetime. That's great. You guys, where's the wisdom in that? You have it right before you. Okay, we're moving on. And for people who answered the first time, sit on your hands. Okay, this is a big one. Without wisdom, the people perish. Does everybody know what perish means? Yeah, perish means you might die, you kind of lose the ability to kind of function and be productive in the world, you sort of give up hope almost. That's what could happen. What do we think? Where's the wisdom in that? There's no wisdom in that, I guess. I guess that Solomon just didn't know everything, regardless what we've ever been told. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if I get it all, but lack of empathy and not understanding of others will lead to people becoming hurt. Yeah, that's a way of, having perish happen. Like, you could hurt people, and that can, have a big effect on them. Amy, I saw your hand up, yeah?
If you have wisdom, you can recognize problems early and figure out how to solve them.
Ah,
If you don't have wisdom, problems can make everybody
yeah.
And there's a good one, climate change.
It's like I planted her. So Amy was saying, without wisdom, we're not able to kind of solve some of the big issues that we face. But with wisdom, we actually can work to solve some of the big problems that we're facing. I think that's really true. Where's the wisdom in that? Are we with that? Does that feel true? Good. All right, you've graduated to the third and final one. This one will be familiar to some of you. This one comes from Ecclesiastes, which was towards the end of Solomon's life. And he wrote, "To everything there is a season and a time and purpose under the heavens." To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens. Where is the wisdom in that? I know, they're big ideas. You got to think about them for a moment. I don't mean to push you. Oh, look, see, wise people right here. Go ahead.
It takes wisdom to be able to step back and see the larger cycles, to see how everything fits together and why everything's happening.
Yeah. It takes wisdom to see the big picture, to kind of step back and really notice, kind of open the aperture and look widely. Yeah, that's very important for those times. Carrie?
Just the circle of life, the cycles, and acknowledging their functioning for all of us.
Right. The circles and cycles of life that are happening. We think we can influence them sometime, but in reality, sometimes the wisdom is to pay more attention to what's that natural cycle is happening. Any last one? I can see a hand floating back there. I see two. All right, two. Ami?
I'm a
Working
working parent.
parent, yep.
As my children are small, I think I have less bandwidth to focus on my career as much. As my children get older, I can engage more with work as my children are more independent.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this for both things.
Right.
And all happen, of course.
Right. So Ami was saying about being a parent of small children, that where her attention is focused, particularly now, it's still a working parent, so juggling in that way, but trying to be attentive to the needs of her children at this really critical time in their lives. And so that's a purpose, a focused purpose, along with work. Not that that isn't important, but as the kids get older, there'll be a shift, a different time where attention and wisdom can kind of be focused in other ways. There's one other one. There was a hand kind of up near, yeah, Ami, yeah?
Maybe
To not hold on too tightly.
and not to let go too fast.
And not to let go too fast. There's some wisdom in that. Well, my scholars, my wise people, I know I am blessed to be in the collective wisdom that you all bring here and that you bring to the world. And what I really believe, that you have amazing proverbs to share with the world, and I hope you get a chance to do that. Thank you.
We'll share a different type of sentence now. If you would rise in body and spirit and join me in saying and then singing our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
Good morning. My name is Courtney Young Law.
And I'm Chris Law.
And we are the parents of Calder and Karina. Yes, we all start with C. We're the Claws. And I grew up as a Methodist in Texas.
And I grew up in Canada going to Catholic schools where I quickly figured out that I was an atheist.
When we started dating almost 20 years ago, I didn't know that I was falling in love with an atheist. As my teenage brother said at the time, "Aren't those devil worshippers?"
But we did fall in love. And I thought it'd be fine. She could believe her thing, I could believe my thing. But when we started talking about our hypothetical children, what were we going to do? We were going to have to figure this out.
I was not trying to save Chris, but I did want my hypothetical children to understand religion and the invaluable experience of being in an intergenerational community. I wanted my kids to make an informed decision about religion. And as I told Chris in one of our heated debates, you wouldn't let your child buy a car without doing their research and due diligence about it. How can you not want them to have spiritual guidance?
Well, I wouldn't send them to a car salesman to learn about cars.
That's an actual quote. We were at a stalemate. And that's when I found Unitarian Universalism. I was working at Stanford and read about the new dean of religious life, who was a UU. It was the first time I had heard about the religion, and so I started reading books, and I came to service here to start to get acquainted.
And I started coming to church too. When we decided to marry, we knew that this would be the place. Today marks our triumphant return to the stage.
We were married right here by Alyson in 2005. And every morning at church when I come here, the sanctuary is still filled with the presence of our friends and family from that day. And UU has created a space for us to be a family where we don't all have the same creed, but we have the same values. We've found a religious home where my Christian-based spiritual needs are nourished.
And where my questions and skepticism are welcomed and encouraged. Our children know that mommy believes in God and that daddy doesn't, and that's okay. The religious education program helps our families spark conversations about our values and big ideas, where we think about love and community, kindness and connection, and where our 7-year-old knows that it's okay to ask, "Hey, what happens when you die?"
And our 10-year-old is in the Rites of Passage class right now, asking big questions as well. And you'll all see part of that during that service in a few weeks. So we give to support this community for all that it has given to us, for all that it has meant, and all that it will mean. This is where we were married. This is where our children are growing up, where our family looks forward to waffle breakfast each fall. This is where I have come to realize my memorial service will be held. And this is our community. We believe in it, and that's why we support it. And we ask that you please join us as you can so that we can all build our spiritual home, even as we follow different paths. Thank you.
So let us gather in spoken and silent reflection and prayer. I invite you to rest your eyes. Feel the breath move into your body and exhale slowly. Feel the presence of those all around you, the presence of love that holds us and keeps us in times of joy, in times of sorrow, in times of pain. From the words of Rumi, love is the bridge between you and everything. Our hearts are united as we mourn the lives of the children, husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, family and friends, murdered in their house of worship during Friday prayers. We extend prayers of strength and healing to those injured and affected by this unspeakable act of violence and extremism. We broaden our circle of compassion and concern to the wider Muslim community, the city of Christchurch, and the people of New Zealand. Let us remember that we stand in the name of peace, of love, and of justice. We hold those here in our community, family and friends who are in need of our thoughts and prayers for healing, for support, for compassion. May we find in the week to come a time for hope, a time for gladness, a time for joy, a time to celebrate life. Let us be together in silence. Amen.
Our first reading is from the book of Proverbs, chapter 8, verses 22 through 31. Wisdom's part in creation. The Lord created me at the beginning of her work, the first of their acts long ago. Ages ago, I was set up at the first, before the beginning of the earth. When there were no depths, I was brought forth, when there were no springs abounding with water. Before the mountains had been shaped, before the hills, I was brought forth, when he had not yet made earth and fields, or the world's first bits of soil. When she established the heavens, I was there. When she drew a circle on the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when they established the fountains of the deep, when they assigned to the sea its limit, so the water might not transgress his command, when he marked out the foundations of the earth, then I was beside her, like a master worker. I was daily their delight, rejoicing before them always, rejoicing in the inhabited world and delighting in the human race. There ends our reading. The work and witness of this congregation is sustained by the generous gifts of its members and friends. I invite the ushers to come forward to receive the offering, and I invite all of you to give generously. If it's your first time here, feel free to let the plate pass you by. This service, our gathering together, is our gift to you. The offering will now be humbly given and received. Our reading comes from Kitchen Table Wisdom, Stories That Heal, by Rachel Naomi Remen. Everybody is a story. When I was a child, people sat around kitchen tables and told their stories. We don't do that so much anymore. Sitting around the table, telling stories is just not how we pass the time. It is the way the wisdom gets passed along. the stuff that helps us to live a life worth remembering.
Imagine young Solomon, son of the great King David, filled with uncertainty and doubt. Still a child, he's called upon to lead his people and build a nation. He's desperate for help, searching for answers, some guidance and a direction. In a dream, God comes to him and asks, "What shall I give you?" Solomon requests, "Give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern your people and discern between good and evil." And God, who looks favorably on Solomon, replies, "Because you have asked for this, and not a long life or riches or the lives of your enemies, I give you a wise and discerning mind. No one like you has been before you, and no one like you shall arise after you." Now, Solomon wisely uses his gifts to serve his people. He is a great counselor, a fair judge, a prolific writer, with over 3,000 proverbs and 1,000 songs attributed to his name. He is a savvy politician, a skilled negotiator, a diplomat, a designer and builder, constructing the first temple in Jerusalem. Guided by wisdom, he seeks to create a kingdom that mirrors the stability of the cosmos as inspired by God. But, as often happens with meteoric success and fame, Solomon loses his way. Power and ambition go to his head. He breaks with wisdom and picks up with folly, leading to moral compromises, breaks of trust, and ultimate ruin. In the end, he's left with nothing. Writing in Ecclesiastes, he laments, "Vanities of vanities, all is lost." I have a bit of a cold, excuse me. The Hebrew word for wisdom, chokhmah, means a hearing or listening heart. When Solomon, in his desperation to do good and serve his people, asks for an understanding mind, God provides a divine cardio shock and blesses him with a hearing heart. What happened to Solomon is that he stopped listening to the voice inside. This happens to all of us at times in our lives. We stop listening, stop seeking the wisdom of others. We tune out. These days, we are quick to jump on the hum of the information superhighway. Some are lured into the dark tunnel of deep fakes. Wisdom is left to stand by the roadside. We shout out to our Alexes and Echoes. Why listen to the heart when Siri has the answer? In our need for fast fixes, we forget to slow down, pay attention, and reacquaint ourselves with wisdom. The wise words of Susan Sontag come to mind. Information will never replace illumination. Wisdom is about listening and illuminating with what's in our hearts. It's like that moment when the Grinch discovers Christmas isn't about presents and trinkets, the flu-floopers and the tar-tinkers and the hoo-hoovers and the slew-slumpkers. Its purpose is to illuminate the love and share our hearts with one another. When Mr. Grinch hears the sound of the people singing, his heart opens and wisdom pours in. He sees and hears the world in a new way and discovers his life has purpose. These days, with the flow of information moving at high speed, we barely have time to stop and listen to the wisdom of our hearts. So this morning, let's pull off the highway and find ourselves a shady spot with a picnic table, laid out with a beautiful lunch spread, and rekindle our connection with wisdom. In the Netflix series Afterlife, the comedian and actor Ricky Gervais plays Tony, a widower whose wife has recently died of cancer. The loss leaves him despondent. He questions life's purpose and wonders if death is not the answer. Tony works as a writer for a local paper, writing fluff pieces about odd events and life happenings, like a man who sees an image of Kenneth Branagh in a water stain on his wall. One day, Tony visits a man whose big news is that he received 5 of the same birthday card. 5! I bet that's never happened to anyone before, he says. Is this going to be in next week's paper? Tony replies, oh yeah, we'll rush this through, quite a scoop. The man turns to the empty chair next to him, pats the arm of the chair and says, my Denise will be quite tickled by this. Tony gives him a quizzical stare. My wife, you see, she passed away last year. Light of my life. Anything that happens, I go to tell her and then I remember. He pauses, caught in a memory and story, and looks at Tony. Nothing's as good as if you don't share it. I still have my downs, but then life throws you these interesting little things. You can't feel sorry for yourself. You just gotta keep going. Happy birthday, says Tony. Yes, life is always throwing us interesting little things. Sometimes we don't have the strength of heart to hear or eyes to see the wisdom that is right in front of us. We aren't ready to take it in. The school of hard knocks throws some hard punches, and all we can do is deflect. The wise woman Krista Tippett once asked, why do we always think we have to go it alone? Why do we resist the the wisdom of others. Part of it is shame. None of us like to admit that we don't have the answers. Part of it is perfection. We like to act as if we've got it all under control. No help wanted. But the great wise man Socrates, he took a different tact. Being wise is a matter of knowing what you don't know. Wisdom, it's been said, is found in nothingness. Unless we plummet the depths of our internal nothingness, we cannot attain wisdom. Hard as it is sometimes, we find in the raw material of our lives that wisdom emerges, and we just need to make room and let it speak. Tune in and listen. Susan O'Malley, the 38-year-old Bay Area artist, asked, "What advice would your 80-year-old self give you?" Pregnant with twins, a first-time mother-to-be, she sought the wisdom of others. "I started this project because I needed to listen to my 80-year-old self. At the time, I spent sleepless nights wondering, should I leave my grown-up job with a paycheck and benefits to pursue my artistic passions? This ongoing dream felt terribly irresponsible, scary, and uncharted. But with the rapid illness of my mom, who was only in her early 60s at the time, life suddenly felt too short not to take the risk. How would I feel at 80 if I did or did not make this choice? Before I had the courage to truly take the leap through, I turned to the words of strangers to help me navigate the way." She asked over 100 people of all ages and all walks of life for their words of wisdom. She took answers, some profound, some playful, all disarmingly sincere, and transformed their responses into a vibrant text-based images that appeared across the Bay Area as public art installations. Here are a few. "It will be more beautiful than you could ever imagine. Do more of what you love. Your life is precious. Listen to your mom. Be friendly to people. Don't pull other people's hair. Listen to your heart." We race through our days busy with the details of day-to-day living that often leave us feeling disconnected. But O'Malley's work shows us that wisdom is present within each of us, reminding us that we can be the best versions of ourselves. We just need to take a moment, pay attention, and listen to where wisdom will lead us. What makes O'Malley's story more poignant is that she died shortly after the project was completed. But the words of wisdom live on, now collected in a book. One of wisdom's aims, telos in Greek, is to hone our heart and mind skills to be of service to others, use our wisdom for good, and helping others flourish. So how do we build our wisdom skills? What's the cardio workout that will strengthen our wisdom muscle? It is not a Peloton class with the buff instructor barking orders. I'd say it's more like a step-by-step restorative yoga mixed with some improvisation. It's like the wise woman Tina Fey once said, you can't overthink it. You just have to go down the chute. Lucky for us, the psychologist Barry Schwartz provides a recipe for 6 qualities that can lead us to a wiser, moral life. It may read more like a self-help guide, but for those of us who are grab and go getting our lunch, they might come in handy. 1, know your aims. What is your plan to meet the needs of those you seek to serve? 2, improvise. Be willing to interpret the rules in light of the particulars of a situation. Be flexible. 3, remember, you don't know everything. Think Socrates. 4, consider others. Foster empathy and understanding. And 5, learn to intuit what is needed. Trust your emotions and your senses. And finally, 6, practice and get experience. Find mentors. Be brave. Remember, wisdom is a craft, and it takes time to develop. I've reflected on these 6 qualities in light of Friday's terror attack, where 50 worshipers died and scores were injured. The terrorist, a young man who proudly identifies as a white supremacist, leaves in his wake family, friends, a faith community, and a country devastated and heartbroken. The heartbreak reverberates around the world. We feel it. In a quote from the murderer's manifesto, he asks himself, where did he research and develop his beliefs? The internet, of course, he writes. You will not find the truth anywhere else. We don't yet know the full story, but I wonder what would lead this young man to travel down the dark tunnel where the voices of wisdom and compassion could not penetrate, hearing only lies and hatred of those who call the dark web home. He shut himself off from the wise stories about healing and wholeness. But just below the headlines comes the story of Greta Thunberg, the Swedish teenager on a mission to save the planet. Last year, Greta sat before her country's parliament, a solitary protester, armed with flyers that said she was refusing to attend school to protest adults' lack of concern for the future, for her future. An introvert prone to crippling depression, she was powerfully shaken by lessons about pollution, species extinction, and humans' influence on climate. Her protests quickly drew notice, with others joining in, and this past Friday, students from around the world held a strike, calling on leaders, all of us, to act to address the climate catastrophe. Ms. Thunberg was recently nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. She is now the face of a global movement. Responding to a reporter's question about her efforts, she said, "My work has given me a welcome sense of purpose. I have meaning. I have something I have to do." Those are wise words. Closer to home, yesterday, actually, nearly 100 of us gathered around tables out in the Thomas Starr King Room here at church to take part in the World Cafe. Excuse me, the launch of our mission and vision process, where we aim to clarify our mission and vision for this community. The World Cafe, like the kitchen table, invited participants to share our stories, our collective wisdom, our insights, and our dreams, all with the purpose of setting a course that will help this community flourish. You can't calculate trust by coding or algorithms. You need wisdom, experience, good judgment, perception, insight, discernment, and common sense to solve and resolve the myriad of challenges that face us. It will take our collective wisdom, trust in each other, keen hearts, and compassionate minds gathered at the common table with purpose, committed to finding our way forward. It's our stories, our lived experiences, and our shared wisdom, guided by purpose, that will illuminate the way. Are you full? It's time to pack up the picnic and clean up the table. But before we go, let me ask, what is the stuff that has helped you live a life worth remembering? When you felt lost, what little thing did life throw you that set you on your way? Who taught you it was okay to improvise, try something new, break the rules now and again? Where were you when the voice spoke out of the silence, stirred your heart, and woke your mind? Write these down. Create your own book of Proverbs. No doubt, they'll be wise words to live by. Long ago, when wisdom first spoke, she said these words: "Remember your humanity. Open your heart and pay close attention." May we heed her advice. It is advice worth remembering.
No barrier,
standing, and if you need to be seated, that's okay. We're going to come down and join hands. So you don't need to, for those new here, just reach out and connect. It's not necessary that we get all the way across the aisle. The energy travels very deeply here on our super highway of love. In this leaving, let us hold on to this: the enduring of love, the persisting of hope, the remembering of joy, the offering of gratitude, the receiving of grace, and the blessing of peace. Amen.